Welcome to Masterclass Live. I am your host, I guess, Tom Salta. And as always, I have with me my students from the various courses that I've offered so that anyone who is a student of mine can come and join me once a month live here for some discussions, for some live critiquing, for some Q&A. So welcome everyone. I have Leo and Toby and Konstantin and Chris and Deborah and Oleg and Ani, and hopefully I'm not missing anybody. But yeah, so welcome. This is going to be fun. And let me just try to get my little screens adjusted here. Sometimes things change sizes. Okay, I think we're good now. All right, perfecto. All right, great. So we have some submissions, but before we get to the submissions, I want to ask those of you here a question, which I typically do ask from time to time. I'd like to know, in the world of your music and the world of your career, your aspiring professional career in music, what are some of the challenges you're dealing with right now? Does anyone have any thoughts or things they want to kind of bring up and ask for a question? Konstantin.
Hi, good
Hey.
evening, or well, I guess what time it is for you. I have a challenge, and it's kind of a cool one because I really would like to know how to effectively switch between projects because I find myself quite often working on various projects at the same time.
Yes, right.
Well, I really would like to get rid of this type of operation, but it happens. And sometimes I need to work on a horror game, and on a kids game at the same time.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a good illustration of this, and
Yeah.
I really find it hard to like switch my mind, and maybe there is some sort of a trick to do this,
Yeah.
or
There is. It's a mind hack. Well, describe to me first how you do it. How do you switch, and how often is really the question.
well, the last thing that really worked for me was to schedule like the hard schedule, like 5 days I do this stuff, and then 5 days I do the next stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and no matter what I will have to change, even if I'm like have like some kind of a flow state and I'm like in the zone and I really want to continue to work. I really like force myself to break this state and go to the kids stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of worked. But
Yes, that's right.
is there anything else?
The tried and true method, and this is all based on science, is that you want to block off, as you surmise, you want to block off your time to dedicate to one thing. Because every time you switch, it takes your brain about average 20 minutes to get back into the flow of the new thing. So every time you're wasting time, and the more times you switch, whether it's in a day or in an hour, it's going to make you much less efficient, and it's a little bit musically schizophrenic, perhaps. So my advice is, and you have to know yourself, but what I will do is I will block off at least a half a day. So when I'm going from my horror game to my kids project, ideally I'll be like, one day on one and then one day on the other kind of thing. But I can switch, and if I have to switch, I like to put something mind clearing in the middle of it, like lunch. You know what I'm saying? Something where I'm naturally taking a break. What I don't want to do, and I never do, unless I kind of have to, is I'll be working on one thing, literally close the project, open a new one, and work on that. I think it's really good to have those buffers in between, clear your mind, and try to build it into your day. Does that make sense?
Um, yeah, I really like that. Yeah, it's kind of a fact that you need 20 minutes to refocus your attention, so it's better to keep yourself on a track for well, it is more effective to keep yourself on the track for a long run and then go the
That's right.
next thing. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah, minimize
Yes.
that switching back and forth. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. All right, cool, cool. All right, let's see here. Who is next? And by the way, reminder, you can all put your virtual hand down once I call you. This way I can get the line working, so to speak. Okay, I think Deborah is next. Hi, Deborah. How are you?
Hi, Tom, but no, Ani had raised his hand first.
Ah, see? Technology failed me. Hi, Ani. All
Well,
right.
actually, I think you did.
T-
I raised my hand after yours, so you can go
Are you
first if you
sh
want.
are you sure? Because on my screen is like yours was raised and I was like third.
You're also
Oh, okay.
polite. It's just wonderful. Thank you. Anyway, fine. Whoever wants to go, I'm cool. Doesn't matter. We'll get to everybody.
Ani, you could totally take the floor. I could wait.
Go ahead,
Okay, all
Ani.
right, thanks. So I actually have a struggle that is a little opposite to what Konstantin was mentioning. So
Yeah.
oftentimes I'll be on a brief where I have to write. It's common in the production library music world is write 10 to 15 cues in one style. And there's a deadline, and about halfway through, I get burnt out from writing the same style. I lose motivation, inspiration.
Of course.
It's not that I can't come up with unique melodies. It's just the whole like process of rewriting the same kind of arrangement, same kind of orchestration.
Yeah.
And that basically makes me procrastinate because I'm just like, I'll take a little break and come back and maybe with a fresh mind. And
That's right.
yeah, how do you manage to not burn out from writing? I'd imagine in games when you're writing probably 50 to 100, maybe more cues sometimes
Yeah.
in a similar style. Like how do you not burn out?
I try to minimize the time involved. So when I'm focused, I go into a state of ultra focus. So when I'm working on it, I'm very intensely focused on it, and I try to work fast. So it's kind of like you're getting a lot done in very little time. If I start to feel any kind of burnout because of just monotony, which fortunately doesn't tend to happen too much, but I will create a diversion. Ideally, you want to create a diversion that is productive as opposed to just scrolling around the internet and YouTube videos, right?
Right.
Ideally, you want to create a diversion that's productive. So you kind of take a break, but maybe you can clean up your desk. Maybe you can, purge you clean your computer a little bit. In other words, it's okay to take some breaks and little distractions in the way, but try to be organized. I have a list of every day. I use my calendar, and I'll physically see blocks on the calendar of what I have to do. And I also have a list of tasks and things. So, if I'm like, oh, I need a break, I can't do this, I'll call up that stuff. I'm like, okay, what else can I do right now that's productive, that I can get some stuff done? So this way I'm kind of always, I'm making forward motion. I'm not just wasting time. I'm always chipping away at one thing or another thing. Okay, so that's the practical approach. But the other thing is, watch your health. Get enough sleep. That's a huge thing. Some people, I think a decreasing number of people roll their eyes when you say get enough sleep. I have become a huge advocate, almost to the point of being an activist. In fact, I am just about to release a brand new project with Universal Decca called the Sleep Project, and I'm creating music that is intended to kind of relax people and get them prepared for sleep. Here's the reason, and there's more and more recent science that's coming out that you need at least the 8 hours of sleep. Not 7, not 6. Well, I can function. I'm fine. I get to. No, yeah, you can function. We can all function, but are you functioning at maximum efficiency? And how's your mood? How's your memory? How's your clarity of thought? How's your all of that? So what I find is that I don't burn out very much. And it's a combination of things, Ani. It's 8 hours of sleep. It's 20 minutes of meditation every day. It's the diet that I have, nutrition, right? It's hydration, okay? You should be having half of your body weight in ounces of water every day. I know it sounds crazy, but I mean, we have to treat ourselves like professionals and like professional athletes in a way. Got to take care of yourself. So what you might find is that you'll burn out less.
Yeah, I'm guilty of not sleeping more than 6 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, so
and it's
I'll
not
start
just
there.
about efficiency. It's about there are huge increases in risks for cancer and other certain types of cancer, particularly in males, and some other things. There's a good TED Talk. I'd recommend you watch it. It's called Sleep is Your Superpower by Matt Walker. Check it out. It might be the fire you need to kind of change your habits. All right, and you'll burn out a lot less. I promise you'll get more done in less time. All right?
All right. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate
Good question. Excellent. All right, Deb, you're up.
Yes. Hi
Yay.
again, Tom.
Hey.
Yeah, well, the thing that I found like I'm struggling the most is not knowing what to do. Basically, because like I'm finishing my bachelor's hopefully next year
Mm-hmm.
after 7 years. So my plan is to go to university that hopefully has a good course for video game composition, which in of itself is extremely difficult to find. I see more about film composition than I do video game composition. So basically what I have been struggling with is basically just knowing where to go or what to do next, and things like that, because there really isn't like a manual for video game composers, so to speak, that's like, okay, like first you're gonna do this and then you're gonna do that and then you're gonna do this, so it's like a little blindsiding, like just the whole thing. So at least that has been my struggle.
So let me get clarity on this. What exactly is a struggle? Finding a path of education that supports video game aspirations? Is that the struggle?
Well, yes and no. Like for example, I know that NYU, for example, has a great course for video game composition.
Yes.
But it's like it's such a top tier, at least from what I've heard, it's an extremely good video game what's it called, course. But it's like, are there other places in the world that, like, for example, won't cost me my organs to attend? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because it's so expensive.
Yes. My masterclass series. That's exactly what it's for. Have you watched all the courses?
That's exactly why I'm here, because it definitely complements. And like I attend like things like Game Sound Conference,
Right.
It's like really,
yeah,
it really helps. It's awesome.
It does.
Because it actually allows for more of a viewpoint, Like in my case, though, for example, like I found out I wanted to be a composer, let alone a video game composer, well, about 3-4 years ago.
Yep.
So I changed my bachelor's and I entered into the composition department.
Right.
So it's like I've been told that it'll help if I do game jams and stuff like that, et cetera, or indie games. But like I first have to sit down and learn WYs and FMOD, which I haven't been able to do, and I don't have the time with my studies to attend game jams. So it's like
right.
I can't even build my portfolio because all of the time that I have is for my classes.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, well, here's I'll give you a summation here, best I can. All right, schools can only help you so much, right? So don't put too much weight on the schooling factor when it comes to video game composition. All right. Really, what the school at that point can be very helpful for is, some. Can also be very helpful maybe for some connections and experience and networking, other students. I've seen many composers connect with other students while they were in college that ended up to be lifelong relationships and work and things like that. I know Austin Wintory was publicly talked about how when he was in school, I think one of his first games was a project that he worked on for someone in the film department. I got the details wrong, or the game department, but you get the idea. So school is really great with that. But as you've already kind of mentioned, you know, the people who are really going to be successful are the ones who are just self-driven and are going to find those resources. So there are tons of books out there, you know, courses like this course. You know, my goal is to cover everything you ever want to know in my course. The one thing I haven't put out yet is WISE, because I don't personally know it very well, but I know others who really do. Another thing to mention is, you know, do you want to learn it? Should you learn it? I don't know it. I mean, I know the basics of it, but I have a career in games without an intense professional pro knowledge of WISE. It is possible. Now, I always would recommend, if I could start over and freeze time, I would say, yeah, let me learn it. But when I started, it didn't even exist, really. You know? So it's good to know, but don't fall into the trap of using education as a procrastination tool. Just jump in and do it. Surround yourselves with people who are doing what you want to do. Reach out to composers that you know. You know, reach out to me on the side and say, hey, I'm looking to do this. Do you have some suggestions and things like that? Do you have any opportunities do you know of any opportunities for continuing, you know, education, or any mentorships, or do you know any assistant things, or do you know, watch, I mean, you know, it's all over the place. It's out there. But the school is not the thing that's going to prevent you from, you know, it's not like you go to school and if you don't, you can't be a professional in the video game industry. That's not true at all. That's not true in any way whatsoever. In fact, the schools are going to hate me, but I'd say most people who go to these programs don't end up being, you know, on the path that they think. All right? So, anyway, I hope there was some helpful insights in there.
Definitely. One of the things that I really like is that every time I ask a question, you always have a nugget of gold.
Oh, good. Well, thank you.
So you like I always
is.
come out of these classes always learning something new. So
Great.
yeah,
Wonderful.
you definitely helped.
Well, you ask good questions. All right, cool.
Thank you.
Chris, do you have a question, my friend?
I do, actually.
All right, then.
And it's along the same lines as of what other people have discussed with regards to inroads into this career.
Yeah.
You know, you've done a talk yourself where you talked about 2 Days or Die, Atlas Plug, and how you got in. I had a chat with Chance Thomas last year, and he said 15 plus years ago he could look at IGN's website and see the upcoming games and pitch to them early enough to get the gig, but you can't do that anymore.
Right.
So he's got an agent now, and obviously you would have too. So for us young professionals who's trying to get into it, which ways would we be looking to try and get gigs like this?
To try to get gigs. Where do you get gigs?
It's obviously IGN and things like that. You don't have those resources anymore, so.
You don't know about the website getagiginthegamebusiness.com, Chris? I mean, that's where have you been?
No,
I'm just joking. That does not exist, folks. All right. So look, there's multiple ways. Okay, there's multiple ways. The way I get gigs now is not the way I got gigs earlier. Sometimes it is. So sometimes it's through an agent. Sometimes it's through a direct connection, a relationship. Right? Sometimes there's an open call that you might find out about through a friend of a friend, or maybe some people are talking in the Game Audio Network Guild, or maybe there's a thing. Maybe you look at, let's say there's a particular game you want. It's my dream. I wake up every day. It's my dream to do XYZ game. Okay, well, don't dream, do. Go and look up the developer, find out about the developer, write a polite note, know everything about the game. Don't be psycho and, too crazy about it, but say, hey, I'm sure, I would love, I'm this way, I have a background in this. I would really love an opportunity if it were to come up to pitch on the next whatever that you might be working on, or if there's anything else, just please keep me in mind. Here is my website. Now, that's a cold call. Those are not usually effective, but you never know. If you hit the right person at the right time, it can work. But don't be discouraged, because 99% of the time it's not going to work. And it's not just because we're not good enough. I know all musicians are insecure, right? It's not that. It's the timing of it. For example, I'm a developer, let's say, right? I'm working on a horror game. But the game comes out next year. I already have the composer. I'm already working with them. The next time I'm looking for a composer is in 4 years. Right? So if you happen to hit like that month before they're looking for somebody, ooh, it might work. So you just got to stay in the game. You got to keep pounding the pavement. All right? But make relationships. And here's another way. Align yourself with other composers who are actively doing it. Show value. Help them out. Guess what's going to happen? Someone's going to ask you to help them on something. Before you know it, you're going to have a little credit or two. Chris, you can speak to this.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
You can speak to this, Mr. Guitars and Deathloop friend. So, you know what I'm saying? It happens. It happens. Okay. I hope I answered your question in a multitude of ways.
Absolutely. That was great.
All right, great. So now we're going to have a little fun, folks. We are going to listen to some of your submissions. We have some demos that some of my students here sent in for a live critique. So I applaud your braveness. Is that a word? Braveness? Your courage. Braveness. Okay. I live in my right brain too much sometimes. So we're going to do some critiques. And the point of doing these critiques is to be constructive. All right? I'm not a Simon Cowell. I'm not here to destroy your to destroy you as a person. I'm here to offer you feedback that could be helpful so that you can improve in the ways that you want to improve. Okay? Those are the rules. So I'm going to start with Oleg. Hi, Oleg. Unmute your microphone, please.
Okay, those are the rules.
It's on the lower left in case you see it. There it is, unmuted.
Can I write in the chat because everybody's sleeping in my house?
Oh, yes, okay. Write in the chat. Yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining so late. So what I need you to do is I need you to tell me what you want me to give you feedback on specifically in the music. Is it the production? Is it the melody? Is it? You don't have to write complete sentences either. Just give me some bullet points that you could type in there as I listen. Okay? All right, we're going to do this, and I'm going to take a listen. And here we go. Is it good for a horror game menu? Okay, cool. The mood is perfect for a horror game. I have some ideas already to share with you on maybe production or mix. Good. I try to keep it to 60 a second, so I'm just gonna jump around a little bit. All right, there's some development here. Good. Jumping around. Okay, I'm gonna jump toward the end. I'm gonna listen just in case you put anything that loops. Okay, no. All right, good. Yes. All right, so. Yeah, I think it's fantastic for a hard game menu. Now, I think there are some things that maybe I'll tell you why it's good for hard game menu. It's good for hard game menu because it has a mood of maybe some kind of quiet focus and thinking, and it's not too distracting. It's setting a mood. It's setting some sense of the stage. It's a little pensive. It's not too distracting. I can easily see myself flipping through options and stuff like that. It's like, okay, it's quiet before the storm, eerie, all that kind of stuff. That's working really well. It's not too busy. All right, here are some tips that I think could make it even better, Oleg. One, pay attention. First of all, the best thing you can do is start to listen to other menus, particularly in hard games, and see what you like about them. You might notice that maybe in the mix or the production, the sounds have a little bit more three-dimensional space. Maybe on that ding, 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 maybe I would put some kind of cool, dirty reverb in it. Maybe I put a little echo to put it in the space and make it a little more creepy and a little more ambient in there. You did have some cool sounds that were dry, which is good, and kind of reversed. You know why sometimes these dry sounds are good or the reverse sounds are good? Because they kind of gives a sense of claustrophobia, in my opinion. So it's like right in there. It's like, ugh. But it's okay in music. In fact, I encourage in music. Yeah, Toby, you go for it. Oh, I thought that was like a bottle of gin or something. That's okay. So, just kidding. So, what's nice is to put sounds in different spaces. So it's nice to have, some things in the background. And I don't mean volume. I mean by three-dimensional space. I mean by reverb. To have the washy ambient stuff. Have the stuff in the midfield. And then have the little details that's dry right in your face. And it's good. It's kind of creepy. And it had some unpredictability to it. But it had also some kind of chord progression, which is kind of pleasing to listen to over and over. So a lot of good stuff in there, Oleg. Definitely. Nice job. Cool. All right. So let's go on to the next one. Does anyone have any questions on that before I go to the next one? No? Okay, cool. Next one is Toby. Hey, Toby, you're up.
Hello.
Hi. So you
Hi.
want to give me some feedback on what you want me to address?
I was looking in my my sandbox, as you called it, for because I've not really done. I've worked in an engineering capacity, recording engineer on a couple of games, but not composing. And I have sort of done a couple of ideas with a loose brief that I've given myself. So it's a bit vague in that respect. But anyway, I struggled to choose something that I felt would be that like sort of almost finished. Anyway, so a sort of exploration level in a sort of sci-fi horror suspense type game.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't really a proper mix down. But of course, I welcome any comments you might have on that front. But my main thing is, there's probably a technical term for it, but interestingness over time.
Yes.
I think the loop is sound.
Yeah.
I think it loops reasonably well.
Mm-hmm.
And I know where I would change it
right.
to make that better. But sound choices, atmosphere, and could someone stomach it if they're lost wandering around some cave on another planet for 2 hours trying to find the key or whatever?
Right. So is it too monotonous?
Yeah.
That's right.
Basically.
Well, one of the first things, is to always ask yourself that, listen to it over and over.
Funnily enough, I tried it earlier in Ableton whilst I was working, and it was good for about 10 minutes.
Okay.
And considering I wrote it as well,
right.
I was quite happy, but of course the fresh pair of ears is always
understood. Okay.
Very
fair enough. Let's take a listen.
Thank you.
sound. New sound. New part. In the zone. We're in the zone. Mark now, which is good. You might right there. You probably want to put a little change in there. You know what I mean? Just something maybe, or here, like a breakdown of some kind. Yeah. See, that's the problem. That's what it doesn't have. It doesn't have a change. Yeah. So you have a nice even build like this for 2 minutes, and then it kind of goes and ends, and it goes back to nothing again. So instead of this, and this goes for everybody, instead of this in your loop, try this.
Yeah.
See what I mean? More of a journey that kind of changes.
Yeah.
You know,
and sort of perhaps more unpredictable ups and downs.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to overdo it. In this one, I think a very simple fix is to do a breakdown.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And, you know, this is something that early in my career, this was foreign to me because I came from making records, you know, just regular music, songwriting and stuff like that. And what I started noticing, and Bill Brown, wonderful, amazing composer. He was one of the first people I really was listening to closely, and I really resonated with his work. And I'm like, wow, there's so many changes. Like every 4 bars or every 8 bars, it changes. You know, if you listen to the early Rainbow Six stuff. You know, I was like, wow, okay, yeah. And I started getting into that, mindset. So now it's second nature to me, and which is why probably it can more easily hear when it's needed, So I think really that's it. I think the vibe and everything was fine. Yeah, I mean, you're an engineer. Your mixing was fine, I think it's cool. I think that would be the biggest help to this piece is to put some kind of breakdown.
Thank you very much. Real quick. Sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
Quick hand. I actually had a question. You mentioned a lot in your courses, which I absolutely love, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm hooked already. Modulation, which is obviously relevant to that. I would have thought, because it was specifically when you were talking about keeping it interesting when it might loop a lot in a level.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mean any kind of modulation, metric, harmonic, mod wheel, or is there anything specific?
Yeah, I wasn't referring to, let's say, a mod wheel. I was referring to harmonic modulations. Let's say do and then dum ba bum ba bum ba bum ba bum, and then like the same thing, not a blues progression, but that's what I mean by modulations. You know what I mean?
There's more of a musical modulation than a
musical modulation. Exactly.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much, Tom.
And it's not always necessary, but it's one of the many tools that can be used.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Nice one. Thank you.
My pleasure. Great stuff. Okay, cool. Now let me do this. Let me get the next one lined up. Okay, cool. All right, let's see. Ani, you are up.
Okay, so this one was for a brief from a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a interactive game music catalog. I've never done this before. I've only done like the regular production music. So one thing that I struggled with is the feedback that they had is it needs to be more synthy, punchy, and percussive. And it's been a nightmare finding the sound that I hear in my head because I have like thousands and thousands and thousands of sounds. I just spend so much time in Omnisphere, Serum, and kind of end up nowhere. So
Ugh.
what is your suggestion, just hearing the track and like where I can improve it in terms of making it more synthy, percussive, punchy,
Synthy,
interesting? Yeah.
percussive, and punchy. You got it. All right. This reminds me of something I did for a game called Galactic Rain. This is where it gets less synthy. Here it gets more orchestral. Just jumping around here. You know, honestly, if I were to describe this piece, I would say it was synthy, punchy, and percussive, which is exactly what your client wants you to do more of, right?
Yep.
Okay, so did they give you any reference music, Ani?
Yeah, so they gave me 3 albums. One of them was the Overwatch OST. One of them was actually Warface Mars, I think, from you. And then the third one was Black Ops 3, and there was a particular track in there.
Okay.
So I listened to your entire Warface Mars album.
I can
and
tell.
There's actually a track.
Thank you. Okay.
I may have drawn a little bit of inspiration.
It's quite all right. We all do. It's a compliment.
And there's one track that I really liked called, I think it's Death Rooms.
Yes.
It's very percussive, and I was just wondering, like, when you go through your, like, how do you know where to start in terms of, do you like take like a percussion kit and just play out your own stuff, or is it finding the right loops, or is it layering a combination of loops? Like, how do you go about like finding ways to layer?
Yes, and yes. And it's never the same. You know, loops are helpful in that they can often start as inspiration. You know, they can often spur on inspiration. In other words, you push a button down and you have instant inspiration because there's a pattern and there's something to start with, as opposed to a kit where you're just there and you're like, gung, 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 gung. You know, it's like, I don't know what to do. So, you know, the point is to get the ball rolling, right? So, yeah, so loops can be very helpful. Let's see what we can. We can have a little fun if you want. Why don't we go to the soundtrack? I'm going to go to the soundtrack on Spotify. I'm going to type in Warface Mars. I think it's released. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So Death Rooms, huh?
Yeah.
Let's take a listen to Death Rooms, see if it brings back some memories. Punchy and synthy and percussive. you know, I mean, some for I don't remember. I think I'm playing those toms. Doom 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 doom. I think. There's a good chance, although I don't remember that goom 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 started as a loop or is a loop or is there something in there there's that element and then I built upon it. You know, if I liked it, maybe. I mean, musically, this is almost nothing going on. This is all over a drone, and it's just an action move. All right, great. So let's listen to yours quickly and just kind of do some comparison. Yeah, okay. So, I mean, the mix on mine is punchier, right? The way I place the things, the production is a little punchier, the balance. You know, just watch what you put on stuff, you know. Don't go crazy with mastering and don't go crazy with compression and limiting because every time you do that, all you're doing is you're sucking all the life out of your tracks. All right? You know, my rule of thumb is, you know, no more than 3 dB of limiting, quite frankly.
Yeah. I actually don't have any mastering chain. The mix just sounds horrible because I have too many things going on at once.
Well,
I think that's the big problem.
Well, maybe what's happening is you're overloading your stuff and you're forcing your DAW to do the limiting for you. You know what I mean? Maybe you need to give yourself some more dynamic room. You know, when you create, you know, watch your faders. What dB is what's the average dB point of the stuff on your faders? You know, you should maybe try keeping it down to 18, negative 18. That'll give you some more headroom.
Okay.
But I don't really hear a problem, you know, in your composition, in your approach. I think you did exactly the kind of formula that I did. I think the biggest thing that removes the punchiness is the mix of it and the mastering or whatever it is that's caused the final product, the final mix, quite frankly, you know. But have a little fun with it. If you do notice, I mean, even though that this track has a danger of becoming monotonous, because it's the same note the whole time. But look, a break. Breaks in the rhythm. The rhythm's changing all the time. There's a lot of variety, you know, but that wasn't your question. Your question was, I think it's just a mixed thing, quite frankly. I do.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Can I ask one last question? What is your go-to synth for finding, or do you make your own sounds in like Zebra, or are you more of a Omnisphere guy, or?
My go-to synth, you know, I don't have a go-to synth. It depends on what I'm doing. Okay, like I will use, let's say I might use Nexus if I'm writing dance songs, and I'll never go near it when I'm doing something like this. I love Omnisphere. I mean, if I had a desert island synth, I would choose Omnisphere. But even Omnisphere is not the thing. You know, sometimes it's bunches of different kind of libraries and loops and textures out there that I'll kind of combine and stuff like that. Zebra I have. It's not my, you know, I don't heavily use Zebra, but I refer to that sometimes. Yeah, I don't really have that magic go-to synth. It really depends on what the genre is, you know. For this track, I mean, there's not actually as much synth as you'd think. You know, I think I had some, you know, some ARPs and stuff. I don't know if I did it on my Matrix Brute or if I did it in Pigments or whatever, or Omnisphere or whatever, but I'll do a lot of processing. A lot of the textures in there are guitars, are washed out guitar textures and distortions and processing and stab and you know, Brahms and things, you know, and reverbs and stuff. So, you know, but you're doing great. I mean, you're just listen to the formulas, learn from what others are doing. You're sounded great to me. I don't think there's as much of a problem.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it.
Thank you.
All right, cool. We have 2 more. So I think we have good timing here. I have let's see. I have Konstantin, I believe. Are you there? Do we have you still?
Yep. I'm here.
Okay, good. Wonderful.
So my question would be, I'm kind of self-taught And I guess many self-taught composers have this sort of uncertainty in their skill with notes, with like chords and harmonics and everything. And
Sure.
I
Yeah.
really would like to know,
Right.
yeah. And well, I'm also not that like experienced. I don't have like 10 years of experience to like put all this in my bag and say like, yes, I'm doing it actually.
Right.
So so I really would like to know how primitive feels what I'm doing. Is it primitive music, or it have, I don't know, or it's closer to, well, I'd say like real music. Of course it's real music, but is it still primitive, or I'm getting somewhere? Well, yes.
Okay.
Uh,
Well,
I hope I made
whether
it.
that's more of a
My
yes or
question.
no question, and I don't think that really leads. I think the natural thing is to go to the next question, which is if it is primitive. What, and I assume you mean your production.
Well, I mean the harmony, the melody. Well, I guess I can share the breathing. The breathing. I was hired to make a theme in for an Art Deco style. Can you imagine it? It's like Bioshock, sort of like this architecture and stuff, and it also was a detective story.
Okay.
Uh, about a detective trapped inside a Lovecraftian horror. Yeah, so it's kind
Okay.
of complex.
It's a
Yeah,
game, right?
so I'm sorry?
It's a game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a game.
Cool.
So,
Take a listen.
yep.
All right. Cool. I'm gonna jump around a little bit because it's 3.5 minutes. Cool. So, is it primitive? I mean, look, I think you're asking the wrong question, and I probably it does come from a point of insecurity, and we all share it. We all have experienced it or experience it, and whoever says they don't is delusional or lying. So, what this is doing is creating emotion, and it's doing it very well. That's your job as a composer. Your job is not to convince everybody that you are schooled and that you know the difference between a sustained 13th versus a minor whatever. All that stuff doesn't matter. The point of all that stuff is to give you tools so that you have a wider selection of a wider musical vocabulary to create emotion and music that feels good and does what it's supposed to do. So I'm not even going to answer the primitive question. You want to hear primitive? I do plenty of primitive stuff. I'd like to think I do it on purpose. Why not? Who cares? What I just played you was primitive. It was one note the whole time with drums. How much more primitive can you get than that? Okay. So, yeah. So what? It's simple. It was scary. It was unsettling. You know? What else could I say?
Was detective there? Was there a detective side of a story? Well, can you feel like this is a detective story about a guy in a hat with a looking glass, something like
investigating some kind of scary horror thing? Yes, I think so. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like you're showing up on the scene and yikes, what happened here? Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. So keep doing what you're doing, man. Again, just learn by listening to other people's music that you like, that shares things in common, and break it down. Transcribe it, and I don't necessarily mean by this. I mean listen to it, maybe copy it. I'm self-taught. I learned by just copying things when I was a kid. I was copying things on the piano when I was in 5th grade. Then I got in professional, and I would learn by copying. I do covers of songs. I'd be like copying. I'm trying to use my keyboards to really squeeze every ounce out of the sounds and learn the chords, and just learn. I say this a million times. You want to imitate first, and then you can innovate. So you're doing the right thing, man. All right? You have everything you need right now. Right now, you have everything you need to make great music. And I mean that inside you have everything you need, and you have everything outside too. Okay? Doesn't mean you can't get better. I can get better. I better be getting better still. Okay? If you're not growing, you're dying. So, I don't know, man. Sounds good to me.
Thank you very much, Tom.
You got it. All right, cool. All right, Deborah, you're last.
Yes.
Let's do it. Talk to me.
Well, I created that piece specifically because it's kind of similar to the last project that I had showed last time. I made it when I was playing Final Fantasy, and I was like, you know what? I wonder what I could make and implement it here. So I composed this piece, and I think it fit pretty decently. Because I have a tendency to, when I'm playing games, I'm like, I wonder what I could write instead of what's here.
Okay, good.
And so that's basically what I did. It's a trio, and I just wrote it for the Chocobo farm. I know, like, it does have the Garrison instrument from Finale, because I imported the WAV file from there. Because I had no idea today we would be doing this, because I found out like literally an hour before it happened. I wasn't even home yet. So I just imported the audio and I sent it, but I am aware of the audio quality just in case. And I fixed a little bit the dynamics, because I remember last time you talked to me about dynamics. So I made sure to keep an eye out for it this time in this one. So
what would you like me to focus on? Just the overall, the way it sounds and comes across? And
I just don't really have anything in mind.
Okay.
Just how it sounds, I guess. Like, it doesn't have to, just
right. What do I like about it, and what don't I like about it? Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Let's listen. Okay, so obviously we're going retro here. So I'm, immediately I'm already imagining this be a 8-bit RPG, top-down kind of thing. Let's see what the music does. Okay. Okay, so when you did this melody, how did you create that melody? Did you play it? Did you program it? Did you put it on a piano? What did you do?
I played it. I take most of my melodies with me fooling around the piano. I just sit down and I just start hitting the keys, and
Mm-hmm.
something eventually pretty comes out that I like.
Okay, so
So that's what I did.
you wrote
I
that
yeah, on
separately on a
piano.
piano. That's how you created it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so just a couple of things. I mean, I have to address the fact that right now it sounds like very old retro gaming where it's just, you're limited by voices, so there's just like 3 or 4 things tops going on, right? That was
Mm.
intentional. The sounds themselves are very primitive sounding sounds, like technology going back, when we were limited to sound cards and things like that. This is
Hmm.
all intentional, right?
Well, yeah, I wanted to put better instrumentation, like instead of Garrison instruments, I wanted to put at least East West because then it has a more realistic sound, or get some fellow musician friends and
Well,
record it, but I haven't been able to do that.
well, let's take a listen here. Look. In my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just the sounds themselves. I mean, it's
Hmm.
there's a couple of other things that you're doing. One, they're quantized 100%, so it just sounds like a computer. It sounds like you programmed the music. So I don't care if you
Hmm.
used East, West, Spitfire, Garrison, doesn't matter. You're gonna have the same problem. That's not the way people play. Okay, so
Mm.
what I would do is start by one thing at a time. When you play that oboe part, make it feel like a human being is playing it. All right, play it. It's not just turn quantizing off only, by the way. It's also the phrasing of it. Listen to music. Listen to other music that has oboe parts in it. Listen to how the phrasing is. Believe it's not just, it's not that so rigid and jumping around and all the time. There's some fluidity, there's some humanness to it. So this is lacking all humanness across the board in all the instruments. It's like that's why I'm thinking 8-bit, because it kind of takes me back to just little blocks, right? 8-bit stuff, there was no nuance in it. It was just like, right? And your music is doing that too. I like that face. Okay, you see what I'm saying? So you don't want your
Yeah.
music to sound that way. Right now, that's what your music sounds like. It's very rigid and programmed and dry as a bone. Um, I would say, and this is I think a great assignment. Before you start innovating, which is making your own piece, take another piece that you're aiming for and copy it exactly, note for note.
A transcription?
I mean, it's not so much about you getting the notes right, it's about you recreating the music so it sounds as good as the original. And what that's going to do is it's going to show you all these little things besides putting notes down that are involved in a final product. Okay? It's going to show you the expression. It's going to show you the timing, the phrasing, the arrangement, the effects or lack thereof, the processing, the sound stage, the panning, the everything,
Mm.
right? Right now, I think you're trying. You're. I think you're trying to, in a way, trying to run before you're walking. All right, and that's going to be frustrating because you're not going to make you. I want you to learn how to make that music that you want to do first properly. Okay,
Mm.
that would be a really good exercise for you. So
And
what?
then how would I go about doing that?
Pick a piece. So pick. It could be if you're really jazzed and excited about, like, say, my dream job is to be making this music, this song. Pick a song or pick a composition that you feel you can pull off right now, as close as possible to it. Okay, and that might, you have to
Cool,
be
yeah.
you got to understand your equipment. And did we lose somebody?
No,
Or-
your audio
Yeah,
went
about
off
20
for a little
seconds.
Oh,
bit.
my audio went off. Uh-oh. Okay, gotcha. All right, well, I'm back. I'm glad the internet held up. Basically, pick something you want to sound like. All right,
Okay.
and then, have it on your computer. Listen to it, download it, buy it, whatever. Listen really closely. And then one instrument at a time. Just focus in on one instrument at a time. And just do that. Okay? I've been doing this since I was a kid, but even as an adult, I had to do this on the Halo Master Chief collections. I was one of the team members that retranscribed and recreated the entire score note for note. Note for note, sound for sound. It's craziness. So it's a very practical and helpful tool, and it's the best teacher you'll ever have.
Okay, so to make sure that I understood you correctly, it's like sit down, like for example, Ilan Eshkeri's composition of Way of the Ghost. Just sit down with that piece, listen to it continuously, and write down the notes. But the point is not the correction of the notes, but rather the phrasing of the
You
notes.
don't have to write it down. I mean, I think you can skip the writing process. I want you to go and create it in your DAW. Create the instruments.
Oh,
Play it.
okay.
Copy it. Say, this is the original and this is my version. Okay? And try to make it as similar as you can. And then it's going to highlight the things that are not as good. You might say, gosh, I can't get my strings to sound like that. Oh, why? Aha. Now we have something to work with. You know what I'm saying?
I think so.
Make
It
it
never occurred to me
sound,
to do that
take a
before.
piece and try to recreate that piece musically. But start with
Okay,
something
that's
simple.
that sounds really cool.
It's the best teacher you'll ever have.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, awesome. Yeah.
And then bring it next time. And what you should do next time is we'll do 30 seconds of each. So just pick a small clip, 30 seconds of something, and then show me the original and then show me your version, okay?
Got you.
And then we can talk about it.
This will be a fun project.
Yeah, that'll
I'm
be a lot
really
of fun.
looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right, folks. So this is really great. We are out of time. It goes so fast. Just a note to those of you that every time we do this, I'm going to run a 48-hour sale. So if you haven't purchased any of the masterclass, the Deathloop Essentials or Game Music Essentials, right now we're running a 20%. There's a code for 24 hours that you can pick it up. And there's also a monthly payment option. So if it's too much to pay all at once, you can split it up. The codes are, and I don't have these written out, but the codes are for Game Music Essentials. It's GME-Winter 22. So they all end with Winter 22. The Deathloop Edition is DL-Winter 22. And then we have a bundle of the two together. BDL-Winter 22. Okay? If you have any questions or whatever, just reach out. Our next event will be a month from today, and March 16th. And I think that is about it for now. I hope you can join us. If you want to be part of this and you want to join me live here, become a student. Just go to tomsalta.com/masterclass, and I'd love to welcome you here, and it could be the beginning of a new musical journey. So it'll be fun, and you can always join us on YouTube as well. All right. Well, everyone, great to connect with you. Have a wonderful week and month. Be musical, be creative, get your sleep, and I'll see you all next time. All right? Ciao for now.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.